That's slander, Amara said quietly. It's reality, the woman shot back. You don't belong here. The ballroom was absolutely stunning. Crystal chandeliers hung from a vaulted ceiling painted with Renaissance-style frescoes. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens where the ceremony would take place. Everything was white and gold and cream, elegant and excessive in equal measure. Amara had been to venues like this before. She'd grown up adjacent to this world, though never quite inside it. She knew its rules, knew how people like Mrs. Patterson and William Harrison saw the world and saw her. The manager touched her elbow lightly. Ma'am, please. I'm waiting for someone to come get me. Who? Someone who can verify my seat. Then call them. Now. Or I'm calling the police. Amara dialed. It rang once, twice. Dr. Bennett, a young black woman in a bridesmaid dress, came rushing through the crowd. She looked horrified. Oh my God, what's happening? Why is she being detained? Who are you? Melissa asked. I'm Jasmine, one of the bridesmaids. This is Dr. Amara Bennett. She's supposed to be at table 12. She's Bennett family? William asked skeptically. Yes. Jasmine looked between them, clearly confused. Did no one tell you? She's Christopher's. I can introduce myself when appropriate, Amara said quietly. Jasmine paused, reading something in Amara's expression. Right. Of course. But she's definitely supposed to be here. Mrs. Patterson's expression remained skeptical. I've met Christopher's entire family. I've never seen her before. She lives out of state, Jasmine said. She couldn't make it to most of the pre-wedding events because of work. What kind of work? William asked. She's a doctor. What kind of doctor? The question came with barely concealed doubt. Cardiac surgeon, Amara said. Mrs. Patterson's mouth twisted. I see. Well, even if you are some distant relative, table 12 is reserved for immediate family only. I'm sure we can find you a seat at one of the back tables. Her seat is already assigned, Jasmine said. Table 12. That's impossible, Mrs. Patterson said flatly. Every seat at that table is accounted for. My daughter and Christopher have gone over the arrangements 100 times. Maybe there was a mistake with the printout, Melissa suggested. There's no mistake, Jasmine said, her voice rising. I literally watched Sarah write out the place cards herself. Then there's been some kind of error, the manager said. We'll sort it out. In the meantime, Dr. Bennett, we can set up an additional seat. No need, a woman's voice called out. Everyone turned. Sarah Patterson, the bride herself, was walking toward them in her pre-ceremony robe, her hair in rollers. She looked annoyed. Mom, what are you doing? We're supposed to be taking photos. There's a situation with the seating, Mrs. Patterson said. This woman claims. Amara. Sarah's face lit up. She rushed forward and hugged her. Thank God you made it. Christopher was worried you'd get stuck in surgery. The silence that followed was profound. Mrs. Patterson's face went through several complicated expressions. You know her? Of course I know her, Mom. That's Amara. Sarah pulled back, beaming. I'm so glad you're here. Christopher's been checking his phone every 5 minutes. I told him I'd make it, Amara said. She says she's at table 12, Melissa said weakly. Because she is, Sarah said, confused. Why wouldn't she be? We were just verifying her credentials, William said stiffly. Her credentials? Sarah's smile faded as she looked around at the assembled group. Her gaze landed on the security guard, then the manager, then her mother. What exactly is happening here? Nothing, Mrs. Patterson said quickly. Just a small misunderstanding. It didn't sound like a misunderstanding. Sarah's voice had cooled several degrees. It sounded like you were giving her the 3rd degree. We were simply ensuring that only invited guests were admitted, William said. Standard security protocol. Did you give everyone the standard security protocol? Sarah asked. Or just her? No one answered. That's what I thought. Sarah took Amara's hand. Come on. You can wait with me while I finish getting ready. We have champagne and much better company. As they walked away, Amara heard Mrs. Patterson's urgent whisper. Sarah, wait. Who exactly is she? You never mentioned. We'll talk later, Mom. The bridal suite was chaos. Bridesmaids in various states of readiness. A makeup artist working on someone's eyes. Another woman steaming a dress. Everyone greeted Amara warmly. Several asked about her flight, her hotel, whether she'd had time to eat. Sarah caught her eye in the mirror while someone adjusted her veil. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I should have warned the staff. I didn't think. It's fine, Amara said. It's not fine. My mother just basically interrogated you like a criminal. She didn't know who I was. She should have been polite regardless. Sarah's jaw tightened. That's the second time this weekend someone's assumed the worst because, well, you know. Amara knew. Yesterday the hotel tried to give me a service entrance elevator, Sarah continued. Said the main elevators were reserved for wedding guests. Even though I was literally holding my dress bag with my name on it. One of the bridesmaids snorted. Don't forget when that photographer asked if you were the wedding planner. Or when Christopher's uncle asked if I was the diversity hire. Another added darkly. Sarah met Amara's eyes in the mirror. I was naive. I thought having the wedding at a place like this would make things easier, classier. But some of these people, you don't have to apologize for them, Amara said. But I do, though, because I brought you into this. I wanted you here so badly, and now. Sarah, Amara smiled. I'm here because I want to be here. And a few awkward people at the door aren't going to change that. Promise. Promise. But as Amara sat there, accepting a glass of champagne from one of the bridesmaids, she wondered if Sarah understood what had actually happened. The way William had said real family. The way Mrs. Patterson's eyes had traveled over her like she was an intruder. The casual assumption that she didn't belong. She'd promised Sarah she wouldn't let it bother her. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. The ceremony was supposed to start at 4 o'clock. By 3:30, the gardens were filled with guests in their assigned seats. White chairs arranged in perfect rows. An arch covered in white roses and trailing greenery. A string quartet playing something classical and unmemorable. Amara walked down the path toward the seating area, now with official clearance from Sarah herself. But that didn't stop the looks. An older white woman in an enormous hat leaned toward her companion. Who is that? No idea. Maybe she's with the groom's work colleagues. I don't think so. Look at her dress. That's not. Well, you know. Amara's dress was elegant and expensive, a deep navy silk that had cost more than she wanted to admit. But apparently that wasn't the issue. She found table 12. 6 seats. Name cards in calligraphy. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett. Christopher Bennett. Michael Bennett. Rachel Bennett. Dr. Amara Bennett. She sat down. A server approached immediately. Can I get you something to drink, miss? White wine, please. Right away. But he didn't move away immediately. He hesitated, then said quietly, Are you at the right table? Table 12 is family seating. I know. It's just that the Bennett family. I know who they are. He left, but not before giving her one more uncertain look. 5 minutes later, an older white couple approached the table. The man was tall, with silver hair and an expensive watch. The woman was petite, wearing cream lace and pearls. They stopped when they saw Amara. I think there's been a mistake, the woman said pleasantly. This table is reserved for family. I know, Amara said. I'm Amara. They stared at her. Christopher's sister, she added when neither of them spoke. The silence stretched out. The man recovered first. I'm sorry, he said slowly. Christopher's sister? Yes. Christopher has one sister. Rachel. He gestured vaguely toward the bride's side of the aisle. He has 2 sisters, Amara said. I'm the other one. Mrs. Bennett's face had gone pale. I don't understand. We've never. I'm Richard Bennett's daughter, Amara said. Christopher's half-sister. From his father's first marriage. The silence that followed was worse than before. Mr. Bennett, clearly the second husband, looked like he'd been struck. Mrs. Bennett's expression cycled through confusion, shock, and something that might have been anger. Christopher never mentioned. Mrs. Bennett began. We're not in touch as often as we'd like, Amara said. I live in Boston. Work is demanding. You're a doctor? Mr. Bennett asked, his gaze dropping to her place card. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. There would be more awkward family dinners, more questions, more people who didn't understand. There would be days when she wondered if it was worth it. But then she'd remember Christopher standing at that microphone, claiming her as his sister in front of everyone who mattered to him. She'd remember Sarah calling her family. She'd remember Rachel and Michael both choosing to know her, despite everything. And she'd remember that sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is simply refuse to disappear, to show up, to take your seat at the table, even when people question whether you belong there. Because you do belong. You always did. And anyone who can't see that is the one with the problem, not you. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of a time when you had to fight to be seen, or when someone stood up for you when it mattered most, then I hope you'll share it. Because stories like this matter. They remind us that dignity isn't something we earn through credentials or connections. It's something we're born with. And no one gets to take that away. Amara arrived at her hotel and went up to her room. She changed out of her dress, washed her face, and sat on the bed. Her phone rang. It was a number she recognized but hadn't seen in years. Her father. She stared at it for a long moment. Let it ring. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then she answered. Hello. Amara. His voice was exactly as she remembered. Deep. Authoritative. Careful. I heard about the wedding. Did you? Christopher called me. After. He told me what he said. What he did. And. Silence. Then. I think we should talk. Do you? Yes. I think I made mistakes. A long time ago. And I'd like to. I don't know. Try to fix them. Amara looked out the window at the city lights below. She thought about the little girl she'd been, waiting for this call, hoping for it, believing it would come. She thought about the woman she'd become without it. I don't know if you can fix them, she said quietly. I don't know if I want you to try, Amara, but I'll think about it. And maybe, someday we can talk. Really talk. About what happened. About why. About what comes next. I'd like that. I'm not promising anything. I understand. Do you? Because understanding would have meant not abandoning your daughter when her mother died. Understanding would have meant choosing me, even once, over your reputation. He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was thick. You're right. I don't understand. But I'd like to try. Then try, Amara said. But know that I'm not waiting for you anymore. I have a life. I have family. I have people who chose me when you wouldn't. So if you want to be part of that, you'll have to earn it. The way Christopher did. The way Sarah is. The way Rachel and Michael are trying to. I will. We'll see. She hung up. And then she smiled. Because she realized something important. She didn't need his apology. She didn't need his validation. She didn't need him to see her worth. She already knew it. And so did everyone who mattered. The next morning, she met Mrs. Patterson for breakfast at a cafe near the hotel. They talked for 2 hours. About Amara's childhood. About medical school. About what it felt like to be stopped at the door of a wedding where your name was literally on the guest list. Mrs. Patterson listened. Really listened. And when Amara finished, she said something simple and true. I'm sorry. And I'm grateful you're teaching me to do better. I'm not here to teach you, Amara said. But I'm glad you're willing to learn. They made plans to meet again. In a month. In Boston. So Mrs. Patterson could see where Amara lived, where she worked, who she was beyond the woman at table 12. It was a start. A few weeks later, Amara received a package. Inside was a framed photo from the wedding. Not an official one. Something someone had captured on their phone and sent to Christopher, who'd sent it to her. It showed the moment right after his speech. Christopher was hugging her. Sarah was standing beside them, beaming. And behind them, visible in the soft focus of the background, was the entire ballroom standing and applauding. Under the photo, Christopher had written, "This is what family looks like. Thank you for letting me be part of yours." Amara hung it in her office, right above her desk, where she could see it every day, a reminder that she'd earned her place. Not at table 12, not at the wedding, but in life, in her career, in her own story. And no one, not a security guard, not a father, not a room full of strangers making assumptions, could take that away from her. Because she belonged. Not because anyone gave her permission, but because she decided she did. And that was all the permission she'd ever needed. 3 months later, Amara stood in an operating room at Boston General. She was 6 hours into a complex cardiac surgery. The patient was a 14-year-old girl with a congenital heart defect. High risk, high reward. The kind of surgery that made Amara grateful she'd fought so hard to get here. Suture, she said calmly. The nurse handed it to her. Her hands were steady. Her mind was clear. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. When the surgery was over, successful, the girl's heart beating strong and regular, Amara stepped out of the OR and pulled off her mask. Her phone showed several messages. Rachel, sending photos from her semester abroad. Michael, asking for advice on medical school applications. Sarah, sharing a funny story about married life. And one from Christopher. Dad wants to meet with both of us. Said he has something to say. No pressure. Your call. Amara looked at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back. Okay, I'm ready. Because she was. Not because she needed closure. Not because she was hoping for some dramatic reconciliation. but because she'd learned something important over the past few months. You don't heal by avoiding the painful parts. You heal by walking through them, by facing them, by deciding they don't get to define you anymore. She'd spent her whole life proving she belonged, proving she was worthy, proving she deserved her seat at the table. But she didn't need to prove anything anymore. She already knew who she was, and so did everyone who mattered. The rest was just details. If you found yourself rooting for Amara, if you felt the weight of every assumption and dismissal, and if you stayed to see her claim her place, not through anger, but through quiet, undeniable dignity, then you understand what this story is really about. It's about the power of showing up, of refusing to shrink, of being seen. Share this if it spoke to you, and let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to fight for your seat at the table? Because your story matters too. And that's where Amara's story doesn't end. It's where it begins. With a woman who knows her worth, a family that's learning to see it, and a future that's finally, truly hers. Cardiac surgeon. I see. But his tone suggested he didn't see it all, or that what he saw didn't make sense. More guests were arriving at the table now. A younger white man in his 20s and a young woman about the same age. They stopped short when they saw Amara. Michael, Rachel, this is apparently your sister, Mrs. Bennett said tightly. Amara. Michael's eyes widened. Rachel looked like she'd been slapped. Our what? Rachel asked. Half-sister, Amara clarified. From your father's first marriage. Dad was married before. Michael asked, looking at his mother. You never said. We don't discuss it, Mrs. Bennett said sharply. It was a long time ago. Ancient history. Not that ancient, Amara said mildly. I'm only 3 years older than Christopher. The implication hung in the air. Mrs. Bennett's face flushed. Well, she said, her voice bright and brittle. This is certainly a surprise. Christopher didn't mention you'd be attending. He wanted it to be a surprise. It's certainly that. The string quartet shifted into a new piece. Around them, conversations buzzed. People were starting to notice the tension at table 12. Rachel sat down, but she was staring at Amara like she was a ghost. I don't understand. If you're our sister, why have we never met you? You met me when you were very young, Amara said. You probably don't remember. Why don't we see you? Why didn't Dad ever? Rachel, enough, Mrs. Bennett said. But Rachel wasn't finished. Did you grow up with us? Were you at our house? Sometimes. When I was little. But not anymore. No, not anymore. Michael leaned forward. Where's your mom? She passed away when I was 12. The table went quiet. I'm sorry, Michael said, and he sounded like he meant it. Thank you. But where did you go? Rachel pressed. After she died. Did you live with Dad? Rachel, this isn't the time, Mr. Bennett said firmly. Why not? She's our sister. Apparently. And none of us knew about her. Don't you think that's weird? Family dynamics are complicated, Mrs. Bennett said in a voice that suggested the subject was closed. But Rachel wasn't letting it go. Did Dad just abandon you or something? Rachel. Mrs. Bennett's voice was sharp. Amara met Rachel's eyes. She was young, probably 22 or 23, and she looked genuinely confused. Not malicious. Just baffled by a family secret that had apparently been kept from her entire life. It's okay, Amara said. Yes. Essentially, he did. The table went silent again. When my mother died, your father made it clear that he had a new family. You all. And that there wasn't room for complications from his past. Mrs. Bennett's face went rigid. That's not. It's fine, Amara said. It was a long time ago. Christopher and I reconnected a few years ago. We've stayed in touch. How? Rachel asked. He found me. Reached out when he was in college. We've been slowly rebuilding our relationship. Does Dad know you're here? Michael asked. I have no idea. He's not, Mrs. Bennett said quietly. He's not coming. Everyone at the table turned to look at her. Richard isn't attending the wedding, she continued, her voice tight. He and Christopher had a disagreement. About what? Rachel asked. Mrs. Bennett didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on Amara, and there was something in her expression that made Amara's stomach twist. It was about me, wasn't it? Amara said quietly. Christopher wanted his father to acknowledge you publicly, Mrs. Bennett said. To introduce you to the family properly. Richard refused. They argued. It became quite heated. Jesus, Michael muttered. So Christopher uninvited him? Rachel asked. Christopher told him he wasn't welcome unless he treated you like family, Mrs. Bennett said to Amara. Richard said that wasn't acceptable. that you were part of a past he'd moved on from. And Christopher said if that was how he felt, he wasn't welcome at the wedding. The weight of that settled over the table. I didn't know, Amara said. Christopher didn't tell me. He didn't want you to feel responsible, Mrs. Bennet said. She looked tired suddenly. Smaller. He wanted you here. He wanted his father here. Richard forced him to choose. And he chose her, Rachel said, looking at Amara with new eyes. He chose what was right, Michael said. If you've ever felt invisible in a room full of people, or watched someone make assumptions about where you belong based on how you look, then you understand what happened next. Because what Amara didn't know yet was that this wedding was about to become about much more than just seating arrangements. The ceremony started 10 minutes later. Christopher stood at the altar in a perfect gray tuxedo, looking nervous and excited and happy. When Sarah appeared at the end of the aisle, his face transformed. It was a beautiful ceremony. Traditional. The kind that appeared in magazines. Everything perfect and planned and expensive. When it was over and the couple walked back up the aisle together, Christopher caught Amara's eye. He smiled at her, a real smile, full of warmth and relief, and mouthed 2 words. You came. She nodded, and felt something in her chest unclench slightly. The reception was held in the grand ballroom. Dinner was a 5-course affair with wine pairings. Speeches were given. Toasts were made. The cake was cut. The first dance happened. And through it all, Amara felt the eyes on her. Mrs. Patterson had clearly spread the word. Amara could see the whispers, the glances, the curiosity. Who was the black woman at the family table? Where had she come from? What was her story? Some people were friendly. Christopher's friends from medical school, Sarah's college roommates. They treated her normally, asked about her work, included her in conversations. But others were different. During cocktail hour, William Harrison approached with 2 other men. So you're the secret sister, he said without preamble. I'm Christopher's sister, yes. Must be quite a story. Growing up separately. Different worlds. Not that different. No. William's smile was sharp. Christopher grew up in Westchester. Private schools. Yale. What was your childhood like? Similar, Amara said. Until it wasn't. Meaning my mother died, and my father decided one family was enough. William's companions exchanged glances. One of them, a man with red hair and a ruddy face, leaned in. That must have been hard, he said in a tone that suggested he didn't actually care. Where did you end up? Foster care. Eventually adopted by a family in Philadelphia. Foster care, the redhead repeated. Wow, that's quite a Cinderella story. Foster kid to surgeon. Very inspiring. His tone made it clear what he meant. Very unlikely. I worked hard, Amara said evenly. I'm sure you did. William sipped his scotch. Still, must be strange, coming into this world. All this wealth. This family. After growing up in, well, different circumstances. I'm not here for the wealth. No? Then what are you here for? Christopher invited me. He's my brother. Half-brother, the 3rd man corrected. Let's be accurate. Amara looked at him. He was older, maybe 50, with silver streaks in his dark hair. There was something cold in his eyes. Half or full, he's my family, she said. Family is complicated, the man said. Blood doesn't always mean connection. Sometimes it's better to let the past stay in the past. Is that what you do? I'm just saying, showing up at a wedding, inserting yourself into a family you haven't been part of for decades. Some people might find that opportunistic. Are you calling me opportunistic? I'm calling it how I see it. Before Amara could respond, a hand touched her elbow. She turned to find Christopher standing beside her. Gentlemen, he said pleasantly. Mind if I steal my sister away? William's expression flickered. We were just getting to know her. I'm sure you were. Christopher's smile didn't reach his eyes. But I'd like to introduce her to some other guests. If you'll excuse us. He guided Amara away before they could respond. Sorry about them, he said quietly. William's an ass. Always has been. It's fine. It's not fine. Christopher stopped, turning to face her fully. I wanted today to be perfect. For you to feel welcome. And instead, Christopher, I'm here because you wanted me here. That's all that matters. Dad should be here too. But he's not. And that was his choice. I'm sorry. Don't be. You stood up for me. That means more than you know. Christopher's eyes were bright. You're my sister. That's not negotiable. Half-sister, Amara said with a small smile. Don't you start too. They moved through the reception together. Christopher introduced her to more people. Sarah's extended family, friends from graduate school, colleagues from work. Some were warm. Some were curious. A few were clearly uncomfortable. During dinner, Mrs. Patterson made a speech. She talked about Sarah's childhood, her accomplishments, her kindness. Then she turned to Christopher. When Sarah first brought Christopher home, she said, her voice carrying across the ballroom, I knew he was special. He came from such a wonderful family. Strong values. Good breeding. Amara felt every person at table 12 tense. The Bennett family, Mrs. Patterson continued, has such a proud legacy. Christopher's parents built a beautiful life, raised wonderful children, and now, Sarah is joining that legacy. She raised her glass. To family, to tradition, to the future. Everyone drank. Everyone except Christopher. When Mrs. Patterson sat down, he stood up. He wasn't scheduled to speak yet. That was supposed to happen later, but he took the microphone anyway. Thank you, Patricia, he said. That was lovely. I just want to add something, if I may. The room went quiet. Family is important, Christopher said. You're right about that. But family isn't just about legacy or breeding or tradition. It's about the people who show up, the people who stay, the people who choose you, even when it's hard. He turned toward table 12, toward Amara. My father wasn't here today, he said. Some of you probably noticed. Some of you probably know why. He refused to come because he didn't want to acknowledge someone very important to me. Someone he should have acknowledged a long time ago. Amara's heart started pounding. I have a sister, Christopher continued. Amara. She's here today, and I need everyone in this room to understand something. He looked directly at his mother, at his siblings, at Mrs. Patterson. Amara is not a secret. She's not a complication. She's not a piece of my father's past that he gets to pretend doesn't exist. She's my sister. She's brilliant. She's kind. And she's family. The room was absolutely silent. When I was 20, I found out about her, Christopher said. Found out my father had another daughter. One he'd abandoned when her mother died. One he'd erased from his life like she never existed. And when I confronted him, he told me to let it go, to pretend along with him, to protect the family's reputation. Mrs. Bennett's face had gone white. I couldn't do that, Christopher said. So I found her. And when I did, I found an incredible person. Someone who'd been through hell and come out the other side. Someone who'd put herself through college and medical school with no help from anyone. Someone who'd become one of the top cardiac surgeons in the country despite every obstacle in her path. He looked at Amara. His eyes were shining. So yes, Patricia, family is important. But not the version of family that excludes people. Not the version that cares more about appearances than people. The version of family that matters is the one we choose. The one we fight for. And Amara is the family I choose. He raised his glass. To my sister, Dr. Amara Bennett. The strongest person I know. The room erupted. Some people clapped immediately. Others sat in shocked silence. Mrs. Patterson's face had gone from pale to scarlet. Mrs. Bennett was crying quietly. Michael and Rachel were both staring at Christopher like they'd never seen him before. Sarah stood up and walked to Christopher's side. She took the microphone. What my husband said, she said firmly. Amara, welcome to the family. The real family. The applause grew louder. Amara felt tears burning in her eyes. She stood up, not quite sure what to do, and suddenly Christopher was there, hugging her. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have done this years ago. You did it now, she whispered back. That's what matters. Stay with me, because what happened next changed everything. Not just for Amara, but for everyone in that room who had made assumptions about who she was and where she belonged. The rest of the reception was a blur. People approached Amara constantly now, some apologetic, some curious, some genuinely kind. William Harrison disappeared early with his friends. Mrs. Patterson looked like she'd swallowed glass every time someone congratulated Amara. But Rachel and Michael both sought her out. I'm sorry, Rachel said. For earlier. For not knowing. You didn't know, Amara said. It's not your fault. It's still messed up. Yes, it is. I want to know you, Rachel said. If you want that. I know it's weird and probably too late, but it's not too late. Michael hugged her. Just walked up and hugged her without saying anything. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. Dad's an asshole, he said. Yeah, Amara agreed. He is. But Christopher's not. And neither are we. So if you want. I don't know. Siblings. We're here. Amara smiled. I'd like that. An hour later, something else happened. Something Amara hadn't expected. The hotel manager who'd threatened to call the police on her earlier approached her table. His face was red. "Dr. Bennett," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. I was out of line earlier. I made assumptions I shouldn't have made." "Thank you," Amara said. "I've been instructed by the hotel ownership to apologize formally. Your treatment was unacceptable. We pride ourselves on hospitality, and we failed you today." Amara noticed Christopher standing a few feet away, watching. "I appreciate that," she said. "If there's anything we can do to make this right." "There isn't. But I hope you'll treat the next person with more respect." He nodded and left. William Harrison's apology came later, and it was far less sincere. He found her near the bar. "I may have been hasty in my judgment earlier," he said stiffly. "Christopher values you. That's good enough for me." "Is it?" Amara asked. He blinked. "Excuse me. Is it good enough for you? Or are you just covering yourself now that you know I'm not going anywhere?" His jaw tightened. "I'm trying to apologize. You're trying to protect yourself. There's a difference." She walked away before he could respond. Melissa, the event coordinator, was next. She caught Amara in the hallway. "Dr. Bennett, I'm so sorry. I should never have questioned you. I was doing my job, but I could have handled it with more grace." "You could have handled it with basic respect," Amara said, "regardless of who I was." Melissa's eyes filled with tears. "You're right. I'm sorry. This one felt real." Amara softened slightly. "Thank you," she said. "I appreciate that." But the most surprising moment came near the end of the night. Mrs. Patterson approached her alone. The fire had gone out of her. She looked tired and older than she had that morning. "May I speak with you?" she asked. "Of course." They moved to a quieter corner of the ballroom. Mrs. Patterson was silent for a long moment. "I was wrong about you," she finally said. "I made assumptions based on nothing good." "Yes," Amara said. "You did. I'd like to say it was just about protecting my daughter's wedding. About security. But that's not entirely true." She met Amara's eyes. "I saw you and I made a judgment. An ugly one. And I'm ashamed of it. Thank you for saying that." Christopher's speech, it made me think. About how I see people. About what I teach my daughter through my actions. Mrs. Patterson's voice caught slightly. "Sarah has already told me she's disappointed in me. She's right to be. She loves you," Amara said. "That's why it matters to her." "I know." Mrs. Patterson twisted her wedding ring. "I grew up in a very insulated world. That's not an excuse. But it's context. I've spent my life in rooms where everyone looked the same, thought the same, came from the same places. And I've never questioned it. Not really. Until now. Until today. Until I watched my new son-in-law stand up in front of 300 people and choose integrity over comfort. Choose his sister over his father. Choose what was right over what was easy." She paused. "That took courage I'm not sure I have." "You're here now," Amara said. "That's something. Is it enough?" "That's not for me to answer." Mrs. Patterson nodded slowly. "I'd like to try. To do better. To be better. I don't know if you'd ever be willing to give me that chance, but—" "Mrs. Patterson," Amara interrupted gently. "I'm not interested in making you grovel. I'm interested in whether you'll treat the next person differently. The person who doesn't have a surgeon's credentials or a famous brother or a seat at table 12. Because that person deserves respect too." Mrs. Patterson looked at her for a long moment. Then she smiled. A real smile, sad and genuine. "You're exactly as impressive as Christopher said you were. He talks about me? Constantly. For months leading up to the wedding. I should have listened better." They stood there in the diminishing noise of the reception. Around them, guests were starting to leave. The night was winding down. "I meant what I said earlier," Mrs. Patterson continued. "About breakfast tomorrow. I'd like to hear your story, if you're willing to share it." "Why?" "Because I need to understand. What it cost you to be here. What it cost Christopher to choose you. What it costs people every day to move through a world that doesn't see them." She hesitated. "And because you're family now. Whether I handled that well or not, it's true. You're Sarah's sister-in-law. My grandchildren's aunt. And I'd like to know you." Amara studied her. There was something raw in Mrs. Patterson's expression. Something that looked like genuine remorse. "Breakfast sounds good," Amara said finally. "Thank you." Mrs. Patterson squeezed her hand briefly. "Thank you for giving me a chance to do better." After she left, Christopher found Amara again. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm okay. You've been handling a lot tonight. A lot of apologies that shouldn't have been necessary." "True." Amara smiled slightly. "But I'll take growth over nothing." You're more gracious than I would be. You uninvited your father to your own wedding for me. I think you've cornered the market on grace." Christopher laughed, but it was tinged with sadness. "I kept thinking he'd change his mind. Show up at the last minute. Apologize. Choose differently. But he didn't. No, he didn't." Christopher looked out at the ballroom. "I got a text from him earlier, right before the ceremony. He said I was making the biggest mistake of my life, that I was destroying our family for someone who isn't really part of it. I'm sorry. Don't be. He's wrong. You are family. You always were. He's the one who walked away from that, not you. Still hurts, though." "Yeah, it does." Christopher turned back to her. "But you know what hurts less? Knowing I did the right thing. Knowing I chose you. Knowing that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I won't look back and wonder if I should have stood up for what mattered." Amara felt tears prick her eyes again. "When did you get so wise?" "When I found my big sister and realized what it meant to have someone in your life who survived everything and still became exactly who they wanted to be." They hugged. Around them, the ballroom was emptying. The night was ending, but something new was beginning. Later, much later, after the dancing and the cake and the champagne, Christopher and Sarah prepared to leave for their honeymoon. But before they went, Sarah pulled Amara aside. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For being here. For handling all of this with so much dignity. For being exactly who you are." Sarah took her hands. "Christopher told me what your relationship has been like. How hard he's worked to earn your trust. How long it took you to believe he really wanted you in his life." "It's complicated," Amara said. "I know. And I know today probably brought up a lot of painful things. People questioning you, judging you, making assumptions." Sarah's grip tightened. "But I want you to know something. You're not just Christopher's sister. You're my sister now, too. And I will never let anyone treat you like you don't belong. Not at my wedding. Not in my family. Not anywhere. Sarah, I mean it. What my mother did was wrong. What those people at the door did was wrong. And I'm going to make sure it never happens again." Amara pulled her into a hug. "You're going to be good for him. We're going to be good for each other." Sarah pulled back, smiling through tears. "And you're going to be good for all of us. I can already tell." After they left, Amara stood alone in the ballroom for a moment. The staff was cleaning up. Chairs were being stacked. Tables cleared. The night was over. But it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. She pulled out her phone and found dozens of messages. From Rachel, asking when they could meet up properly. From Michael, sending her a playlist he thought she'd like. From Mrs. Bennett, saying simply, "I'm sorry. Can we talk?" And one from Christopher, sent just before he left. "You changed everything tonight. Just by being there. Just by being you. Thank you for not giving up on us." Amara walked out of the grand estate and into the warm night air. The valet brought her car around. The same security guard from earlier held the door for her. "Have a good night, Dr. Bennett," he said quietly. She looked at him. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "You too," she said. As she drove back to her hotel, she thought about the day. About being stopped at the door. About sitting at table 12. About Christopher's speech. About all the apologies and the awkward conversations and the slow, painful realizations that had rippled through the reception. She thought about what it meant to be seen. Really seen. Not as a complication or a secret or a problem to be managed, but as a person, as family, as someone who belonged.